again, we did mention college football, and this is I can hear the engines revving in your
Yeah,
brain.
this is my wheelhouse.
Yeah, you are wired, you are locked in, and I'm going to bring up number 10 ranked FSU facing Georgia Tech
At Ireland, in Ireland.
in Ireland, Guinness.
The annual game.
Yeah, so I mentioned it. I set the stage. Well, you helped me with the Ireland part. FSU ranked number 10. They are favored minus 455 to win. That's straight. The spread is set at 11.5 for FSU, and the over under is set at 56 and a half. The odds percentage wise for Florida State to win as of right now is 79% per Fox Sports. So I wanted your reaction to those numbers.
I think the spread is reasonable. I think the over under is reasonable, especially early on in the season in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the I'm not. I know ESPN has like their win percentage system, however
Yeah.
they do it. For Fox Sports, I think 79% for FSU is shooting a little high. I did a decently deep dive into these teams. Um, Many people will know Florida State went undefeated last year and was held out of the college football playoff because of Jordan Travis's injury. Super unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Now they lose 12 skill players to the NFL. They
Yeah.
lose Jordan Travis, running back Trey Benson, wide receivers Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson, tight end Jaheim Bell, linebackers Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach. They lose safety Akeem Dent. They lose top 40 picks Jared Verse and Braden Fisk to the Rams. They lose top 100 picks Renardo Green and Jerry Jones at corner. Um, that is a lot of NFL talent to lose. And in the current landscape of college football, it is easier than ever to replace production. It's also harder than ever to find production that fits and succeeds when you're replacing that sheer amount of talent and players. Um, they brought in DJ Uiagalelei from Oregon State, who kind of went on a little retreat after his heavy criticism that he took at Clemson. He was very good for
Aaron
Oregon
Rodgers
State.
style.
They were very good. Oregon State was very good. He transfers to FSU. He's immediately one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC, one of the better quarterbacks in the country here. They bring in four transfers by way of Alabama. They bring in a transfer from Georgia on the defensive line. They bring in a linebacker from Auburn. They bring in another DB from Miami. So a lot of power conference transfers for Florida State. This is how you reload. These are highly recruited guys. These are highly touted guys at their previous schools that just don't really have the opportunity. And they clearly want to come play for Mike Norvell in Florida State. How does these guys that do not have a history of producing for their schools in their current situations come in and play? That's a big question for me, and that's why I think that this game could be more competitive than some people anticipate. Georgia Tech returns one of the highest percentages of production in the league on their offense. They bring back their quarterback. They bring back their starting running back. They return their top two receivers. They return their tight end. They were solid last year. They won their first bowl game in a few seasons. Um, they bring in. They still have Haynes King, who they brought in from Texas A&M. He had a solid season for them last year. Almost 3,000 yards, almost 40 total touchdowns. Turnovers were not a great thing for him. He had that moment against Miami last year when Miami didn't kneel and then he threw a Hail Mary for the win. Funny situation there for Georgia Tech. They return a 1,000-yard rusher in Jamal Haynes. They return a 700-yard receiver in Eric Singleton and a 500-yard receiver in Malik Rutherford. They also bring in two highly touted defensive transfers in the front seven, Romello Height, an edge from USC, and Thomas Gore, a defensive tackle from Miami. They were a very competitive team last year. They knocked off some good teams in the ACC and their non-conference schedule. I think they played Louisville tough. who's in the ACC. I don't know why I'm mentioning Louisville. They lost to Bowling Green last year. That's what I'm thinking of. They played pretty well though. Take my word for it. They had a stretch where they were beating a ranked team and then losing to like Bowling Green and then beating a ranked team and then losing to a bad team. I don't think Georgia Tech will win the game. I think it'll be a competitive game from a sure thing to an unsure thing standpoint. I think Florida State, without question, has better coaching and better talent. In terms of returning production and like, have you seen it before on the field? Georgia Tech has that advantage. That's why I think it'll be more competitive. I think I would take Georgia Tech to cover 11.5. I think maybe they lose like 34-24. That would also be an over, ever so slightly.
Yeah.
I think this game will be fairly competitive. That was kind of my deep dive on both of these teams. I mean, Florida State, when you lose that much production, you have to bring a lot in. They didn't bring in a lot of known production, but they bring in these highly touted guys from the best power conference teams in the country. I trust Mike Norvell at this point. Give me Florida State 34-24.
Oh, I love their war chant, by the way. That is one of the coolest things.
Classic.
Was kicking my ass on NCAA. Stadium Pulse was going crazy. But I did want to ask you, because I don't want to say criticize, but you criticized the 79% chance from Fox Sports. If you could redo the percentage of, odds for FSU to win, what percentage would you put it at?
I would lean closer to 60-40.
60-40, okay.
There's not a lot of sure things on that Florida State roster. I talked about production. I should mention Roydell Williams. They brought in at running back. He was decently productive at Alabama as a guy that subbed in with Jace McClellan occasionally. And DJ Uyunglele, obviously one of the top quarterbacks that entered the portal. Quarterback drives the bus at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical of the guys they brought in. Any of these transfers I'm mentioning are projected starters from our lads. They do great work. They're usually tapped into the happenings of every team in the country. From a depth chart perspective, it's nothing official because college teams don't really release depth charts like that, like the pros do. But yeah, that's why I mentioned those guys. I think it'll be a good game. It will definitely be a lot better than the game last year. Notre Dame played Navy.
Yeah, that was not a lot of people locked in on that.
No.
But I will ask you one quick question before we switch gears once again. FSU ranked number 10 in the nation. Do you think that ranking will stick 2-3 weeks down the line?
I'd have to take a closer look at their non-conference schedule. I'm not sold on FSU. I really wish they made the playoff last year. People cite the game. Who did they play in that bowl game? They played Georgia?
I think it was Georgia.
Yeah. They got murdered by Georgia.
Yeah, killed.
People cite that game as like, oh, they didn't deserve to get in regardless. I completely disagree. Just off principle. And also all of these guys that just didn't play. That being said, I don't see that returning at all. There's not really contingency here. They were an older team last year. Not too many moving pieces. That's kind of a complete 180 this upcoming season. They'll be one of the better teams in the ACC. They could definitely win the ACC. They'll be in contention for the 12-team playoff. I'm not completely sold on them as a contender.
Okay, I like it. Switching gears, as promised, SMU against Nevada. SMU favored very heavily, minus 3,333 to win. That gives them a 94% chance to win. And the spread is 27.5 in favor of SMU, and the over-under is set at 57.5.
I would hammer the over.
Okay.
I would probably take the spread. I'd probably take SMU to cover.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that needs to go on with Nevada for them to turn that program around. They're coming off a 2-10 season. And when I looked into SMU, I knew about quarterback Preston Stone, who threw for over 3,000 yards last year, almost 10 yards per attempt, 28 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. I knew about him. They returned 3 running backs, all of which ran for over 400 yards last year. The leading rusher being Jalen Knighton with 700. And they returned 7 out of 8 receivers who all had 300-plus receiving yards. I talked about Georgia Tech returning production. My God, SMU is returning an ungodly amount of production.
Mm-hmm.
They're picked 7th in the ACC preseason poll. Their first year in the ACC, clearing top half in that league. I think it's a realistic prediction for them. They want to air it out. They want to be efficient on offense. Quick pace. That's why they play so many guys. I think this one will get ugly fast. That's why I would take the over and SMU with the spread. I'd maybe go something like 55-14.
Okay.
SMU.
I like it. As we start to wind down, I'm going to ask you, you mentioned FSU in the ACC. How do you think SMU fares in the ACC?
I don't think they're a contender by any means. I think people will be surprised with SMU as an athletic program, from a football and basketball perspective. This is a thing that's not going to happen often. You're going to see a few different teams every single season that return this level of production, and they're going to get a little hype. They're going to get a little talk because you don't see it nowadays with the transfer portal. It doesn't happen. You don't return 95% of your offensive production every day. So they'll be in some games. There's a good chance they could upset one of the higher end teams in the ACC. And I mentioned it with Florida State, with how they're plucking transfers from power conference schools. Nevada brought in a running back, Savion Red from Texas. They brought in a tight end, Andrew Savinea from Florida, and they brought in a wide receiver, Cortez Bram Jr. from West Virginia. So in the reverse, you also see these guys who are recruited at a high-level school that don't quite get the opportunity. Maybe they don't pan out. There could be a litany of reasons. But then they transfer down and they have an opportunity to start and be productive. These are fairly highly touted guys. The tight end from Florida was a 4-star. Savion Red was in conversation in Texas' backfield. They honestly could probably use him now because they've lost 2 running backs to season-ending injuries already. And Cortez Bram didn't really get much run at West Virginia, but that's kind of the inverse effect you find with the transfer portal as well. It ultimately works both ways, and that's good for the athletes. But there's a major renovation that needs to go on in Reno, in Nevada.
Oh my God.
That was a terrible joke. Shout out Bangle on YouTube if you guys watch him and his college football 25 dynasty.
Oh my God.
I needed to say it. I couldn't not say it. I'm sorry.
We're canceling the episode. It's done.
I got to outro us. Damn.
I know. No. We're winding it down. We're not just cutting it right there. Trust me. On the topic of ACC teams, Virginia Tech, you might be over there.
I will be in Blacksburg September 21st.
Exciting stuff. Very exciting. I mean, what else is there to say? Football's back. I mean, there's not.
We're locked in for however many weeks. I should know the number off the top of my head, but I don't.
You're washed. You're 0 for 2 right now with me.
I'm a terrible college football fan.
This guy, unbelievable. Football's coming back, and I know you're kind of indifferent to it, but baseball lovers, October's coming. Red October's coming. The Phils are coming. I'm excited.
I will root on the Phillies from this far away.
Arms reach. Well, Heisman.
Oh yeah.
But it's an exciting time for sports. Any time. October.
It's the best time of the
September, October for me.
Ooh.
Nothing beats it. That's just prime time for me.
I'm a little later. I'm like
You're a
October,
December guy?
November. I'm in maybe December, maybe a little December. The
Okay.
holidays do something to me.
I was gonna say I like the Christmas
I
games.
also a college basketball is my favorite thing in the world, so
That's fair. I'll give it to you. Yeah, that's fair.
gotta lean to the college basketball a little
Because
bit.
then, yeah, at that point you got a little bit of everything going on,
Oh
like
yeah.
November, December. Yeah, I see the vision. I see what's going on. Because I mean, in addition to that too, you got college basketball, college football. You have NFL. You have NBA. You have NHL. There's a lot going on come December. But I mean, that's gonna wrap it up for today.